Chapter 6. The Lodge. John Hamman, 31. 2002, Nairobi, Kenya. The old man looked into the fire. It crackled merrily in the large fireplace, warming the room. The warmth was good. His old bones ached in the chill of the night. Tonight, she would come. It had been so long waiting. He leaned heavily on his cane as he stepped forward to look at the items on the mantelpiece. Pictures of times gone by, mementos, all the things of a long life well lived. His eyes settled on a box with a glass front. He opened it and took out one of the two knives displayed within. He turned and spoke briefly to the servant behind him, who nodded as he handed him the large knife. The young man hurried away on his errand. Leaning on his cane, the old man settled himself into a large chair and composed himself to wait, as he might wait for the animal to come to the waterhole. Tonight, he would see her again, one last time. The letter was a surprise. Jenny had not heard from her grandfather's law firm for years. She thought that had all been settled long ago. When she flew to New York to meet with them and settle the remainder of her grandfather's estate, she had no idea what they wanted to discuss with her. This man had played a central part of her childhood, but she never understood why he left so much to her or the way he did it. Now, in her mid-30s, she thought all of that behind her. It was more than a shock to find that her grandfather had a large property in Kenya with an estate that had been cared for all these years and was now being passed to her. The one requirement was that Jenny must travel in person to take possession of the property on the 15th of February, 2002. She flew into Nairobi. A young man picked her up at the airport. Upon meeting, he very solemnly addressed her as Bibi, which confused her as it was a respected honorific, meaning lady of the house, mistress, or mother. It was the female form of Bwana, meaning boss, leader, or master. He introduced himself as Kamani. He was born on the farm. Kamani's grandfather was chief of the village that was on the farmland. His grandfather had worked for the Bwana for many years. They ate and then left directly. Jenny tried to engage Kamani in conversation, but he had that deferential standoffishness of some of the employees who still thought of themselves more as servants than equals. The farm was large, over 10,000 acres, and had its own native population living in a village on the land. Or maybe it would be better to say that the farm grew crops on the village's land, as it had been here long before the farm. They drove all day, mostly in silence, with Kamani pointing out things along the way, like the boundary of the property, the herds, and water sources, all of which he was very proud of, as if they were his own. After all, he was born there, and would probably grow old and die on the land. Perhaps he belonged to it. They had to stop to refill the tank on the Land Cruiser from jerry cans. It was dark by the time they arrived at the lodge, lanterns around the house lighting up the wide, shaded porch. As Kamani pulled up in front, people were lined up on either side of the path leading to the house. As he walked Jenny down the line, Kamani introduced them to her. The retinue included cooks, groundskeepers, house servants, and the foreman. All bid her welcome and called her Bibi. She came here simply to dispense with an old forgotten property left to her by her grandfather. Instead, she found a thriving, well-managed farm and a rather large house that had been maintained perfectly in her grandfather's absence, as if they expected him to return at any time. As Kamani walked Jenny up to the door, he unlocked it for her with a large brass key and pressed it into her hands, stating,
"Welcome home, Bibi."
Holding the door for her, Kamani motioned her within. As she entered, he closed the door behind her. Jenny was in an entry hall with a gun rack on one wall and a coat rack on the other. The floors were hardwood, polished with long use. It was rustic and felt more homey than formal. As she continued inward, she admired the trophies and skins adorning the walls, all the normal species of African game. She turned through an archway into the main hall. It formed the main living area with large, overstuffed chairs, bookcases, and a large rug made from the tawny hide of a— What was that? She walked closer, her gaze fixed on the skin forming the rug on the floor. It was not right. Nothing was that big. The head was affixed. It had to be a joke. It was a tiger, but more like a lion in color. The head didn't look right, and it was fake. Someone had made a fake saber-toothed tiger throw rug. She bent down to look at it. It did look very real. Lifting the head, she tried to see how they did it, what they had made it from. The teeth and the skull had obviously been preserved, but it looked real. The giant canine teeth were part of the skull, and they were real teeth. She had seen many bones and many skulls, and that was a real skull. The skin was preserved and reattached to the skull, but the skin was also a real hide. It wasn't possible. That was a saber-toothed tiger pelt, which someone had made into a throw rug. All the hair stood up on her neck with the feeling that she was being watched. Jenny slowly turned her head and looked back over her shoulder to the opposite end of the room where a large fireplace cast a cheery glow, warming the room from the chill of the night air. It was a tall room with a high-vaulted ceiling. The house needed that room to hold the head that was above the mantel of the fireplace. She was looking up into the maw of a Tyrannosaurus Rex head mounted above the fireplace.
"Welcome home, Bibi,"
called a new voice. She jumped, turning to one of the large chairs. Jenny locked eyes with a small old man, sitting silently, almost lost in the shadows. No, not small, but very old.
"We have waited for you for a long time."
The old man's eyes seemed to peer through her, as if looking into the very center of her being. Jenny felt like she was staring into the eyes of a lion. Frozen in place, she replied,
"What is this place?"
She could barely force the words out.
"You're home, Bibi."
She glanced up once again, but her eyes were drawn back to the old man's as he assured her,
"Yes, this is real as any dream."
Slowly, he leaned forward, pushing down on the arms of the chair, and rose to his feet. Taking a walking stick, a knobkerrie, from beside his chair, he motioned to her.
"Come, Bibi."
As she came to his side, he put one hand on her shoulder, leaned on her, and at the same time led her from the room, down the hallway, and out into an enclosed courtyard.
"Do not worry, Bibi. All is as it should be, and all is as it will be, and all is as it has been. Be brave, be strong, be good. God smiles on all."
With that, he led her into the center of the courtyard, where a small pile of equipment was in the center on the bare ground. He stepped back, leaving her there alone.
"I don't understand. What is all of this?"
Jenny asked. She stared at the old man as he walked back to the side of the courtyard.
"The caterpillar does not understand the butterfly. It is good to have seen you again, Bibi. All is as God wishes."
Jenny heard a beeping sound at her feet. She looked down at a glowing red light. She watched the light turn from red to green, and then all the world changed. When the bright flash faded, the darkness of the African night returned, leaving an old man leaning on his cane, staring into an empty courtyard. It was done. The story was over. The story had begun. A melancholy sadness filled him. He stood there for a long time as the night sounds returned. Finally he turned, making his way back into the house. Soon his work would be done. He thanked God for letting him fulfill his tasks, and he prayed for the young woman, that she might have the strength for her own.